It began as a love story on television, but it ended up reshaping an entire country's reality. What fans embraced as sweeping romance, Scotland is now experiencing as pressure, crowds, and consequences few ever anticipated. At first, it seemed harmless enough. A powerful TV romance captivating audiences, breathtaking landscapes finally receiving global attention, and a nation basking in admiration. Yet somewhere between fantasy and real life, the balance shifted. Outlander didn't just make viewers fall in love with a story. It made them book flights. Not by the hundreds, but by the millions. What was once quiet, atmospheric, and deeply local became a worldwide obsession, and Scotland has been struggling to catch its breath ever since. The romance on screen felt unlike anything television had delivered before. It wasn't distant or polished. It was raw, intimate, and inseparable from the land itself. Every sweeping shot of the Highlands, every ancient stone castle framed by mist, every whispered promise bound love directly to place. Viewers didn't just want to watch Jamie and Claire. They wanted to stand where they stood. That longing turned into action. Tour buses arrived. Guided routes multiplied. Villages that once welcomed a handful of visitors a day were suddenly overwhelmed by fans chasing an emotion first felt through a screen. At the center of it all was Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe, whose chemistry didn't just sell a romance, it sold a nation. Their performances made Scotland feel alive, intimate, and emotionally charged. For many fans, the country stopped being a destination and became a character. Scotland wasn't simply where the story happened. It was the story. Once that emotional connection took hold, visiting felt inevitable. Tourism numbers surged, and on paper, it looked like a dream. Local businesses flourished. Hotels filled months in advance. Entire tour industries grew around filming locations. But behind the postcards and Instagram-perfect images, another reality began to surface. Residents spoke of congestion, noise, and the slow erosion of places that had endured centuries of weather, war, and time, only to be worn down by sudden popularity. Narrow roads clogged with traffic. Ancient sites strained under endless footsteps. The magic that drew people in began to bend under its own success. What makes this transformation so intense is how personal it feels. Fans don't see themselves as tourists. They see themselves as participants in a love story. Many arrive clutching screenshots, quotes, and scenes burned into memory, recreating moments without realizing how repetition impacts fragile locations. Admiration quietly turns into overuse. Romance becomes pressure. Scotland now stands caught between gratitude and alarm, aware that the very force elevating its global profile is also threatening its heritage. And the momentum doesn't slow, because emotional storytelling is powerful. Outlander tapped into something deeper than escapism. It offered belonging, longing, and connection, and anchored all of it in real places. The result is a country permanently changed by a television romance that crossed the line from fiction into daily life. What began as a beautiful story now raises an uncomfortable question. When the world falls in love with a place too intensely, can that love cause harm? Scotland's most iconic locations are under strain, and the surge is inseparable from the influence of Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe. It started quietly, almost innocently, with a few extra tour buses and longer queues outside places once untouched by time. Then locals noticed something had shifted. Village roads jammed, ancient stones smoothed not by centuries, but by thousands of daily footsteps. Behind it all was a powerful emotional pull driving record-breaking visitor numbers. Not a marketing campaign, not a government initiative. Two faces, two performances. Outlander didn't just attract viewers. It created pilgrims. Fans didn't want to see Scotland. They wanted to step into it. To walk the same paths, touch the same stones, breathe the same air. Places once built to welcome a gentle flow of visitors were suddenly overwhelmed by a flood driven by fantasy and emotional attachment. Tourism authorities celebrated the boom, but beneath the success, cracks formed. Historic villages lost their sense of home. Fragile landscapes eroded at alarming rates. Infrastructure strained under numbers it was never designed to hold. Neither Sam Heughan nor Katrina Balfe set out to create an overrun destination. They told a story with sincerity and emotional depth. But that honesty became a catalyst. Fans didn't just watch Outlander, they bonded with it. When that bond formed, the boundary between fiction and reality dissolved. Scotland wasn't just a setting. It became a living character, brought to life through performance. Tourists arrived reenacting scenes, prioritizing emotion over history, connection over preservation. And while that connection brought prosperity, it also raised difficult questions. How much can a place give before it begins to lose itself? When does admiration turn into consumption? The pressure is now impossible to ignore. Castles echo with constant footsteps. Natural landscapes bear visible scars. Communities speak of seasonal invasions that leave behind noise, litter, and displacement. Authorities are forced to balance gratitude with concern, acknowledging that Outlander's success carries long-term consequences. Criticism becomes complicated by loyalty. For some fans, questioning the impact feels like criticizing the actors themselves. But this isn't about blame. It's about outcome. Scotland gained the world's attention through Outlander, through performances that turned landscapes into symbols of love, resilience, and longing. But symbols are fragile when they become crowded. Preservation demands limits, planning, and difficult conversations that are only now beginning. What's unfolding isn't a scandal, but it is a drama, one built on success, emotion, and unintended consequences. The question is no longer whether this love story transforms Scotland. That's undeniable. The real question is whether the country can protect the magic that inspired the world before that magic fades beneath its own weight.